This is the SAU Report, a program featuring interviews with the faculty, staff, students, and alumni of Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia.
Good afternoon. This is the SAU Report. I'm Dyer, and our guest today is Dr. Alan Bird, who teaches journalism, public relations, and photography here at SAU. I hear you're building an airplane.
That's right, Don. I'm trying to construct an airplane using my own two hands and what tools I have.
What kind of plane are you building, and where are you building the plane?
Well, the construction is taking place in the workshop on my farm between Waldo and Falcon. It's going to be a 2/3 replica of a Curtiss Jenny JN-4D. This was a World War I trainer plane that was also used after the war by many of the barnstormers, and it became the first airmail plane used by the U.S. government. A lot of people may have seen this airplane flying in the movie The Great Waldo Pepper with Robert Redford that was made around 1972-73. What
made you decide to build your own plane?
Economics, as much as anything. I really enjoy flying. I have a pilot's license, but the cost of purchasing a new airplane is prohibitive for some of my income, pretty much. And it's not just the cost of buying a plane to begin with. If you buy a factory-made airplane, the only people that can work on it, and they have to be inspected annually, are licensed A&P mechanics. But by building it myself, after it's inspected by the Federal Aviation Agency, I am, by being the builder, I'm then authorized to do the maintenance and inspections on it myself, and so I save quite a bit of money that way.
How long have you been interested in airplanes, the construction, just airplanes in general?
I guess as long as I can remember. Back at about the beginning of World War I can remember as a 5-year-old, my older cousin and I were buying Kix breakfast cereal, trying to enter a contest to win a Piper Cub. I don't think I could have flown it at 5, but that didn't stop me from wanting one. And later on, one of my uncles owned a couple airplanes on his ranch in northwest Oklahoma, and he introduced me to flying, actually being in an airplane. I enjoyed that. It was exciting. It was interesting, and later on, I was able to get flying lessons, and in the official capacity as a Air Force student pilot, and I soloed a jet. That was the first plane I ever flew myself, and I've ever since enjoyed flying, like flying, but right now don't have a chance to fly until I get my plane built.
How are you building this plane?
Well, the plane, although it's a replica of the World War I plane that was primarily wood and fabric, this one will be made of a more modern construction technique. I'm using aviation-grade steel tubing, and I cut the tubes to shape and to size and weld them together. When I have the fuselage up on its landing gear, or then I can cover it with Dacron fabric. The wings themselves are primarily aluminum. It has aluminum spars, aluminum ribs, and again is covered with this Dacron fabric.
How long do you think it'll take to complete the plane?
Well, they say that you can construct it in 400 hours, but that's someone who knows exactly what they're doing every step of the way. I'm following the plans and having to figure out what everything is going to be, and I'm not trying to rush it. I'm trying to do everything in a safe way. If I have any questions that I'm not sure how to do something, I can either call the person who designed the plans and built the prototypes, or I can call a brother-in-law who is an FAA inspector, and he can give me advice. So I may think I'm ready to work on something, and because I'm not sure what I'm going to do at that time, I'll have to wait until I can get a hold of good advice. So like I said, I don't want to make any particular date. I hope that within 4 years I will be ready to put an engine in it and start the initial test flights.
Well, when you build a plane, I know that it has to be a particular color. I know everybody likes different colors. How did you pick yours, or is there a certain reason for a color that you've chosen?
Well, I've chosen, you can legally paint it any color you want, but there's some good reasons for choosing the colors that I want. The plane is the original Curtis Jenny. After it was through with its military service in World War I, and particularly as a barnstormer's plane, they painted it all kinds of colors. But because I like military aviation, I want to paint it one of the 2 or 3 military patterns, and I'm going to use the basic training color scheme because it is predominantly yellow, and that makes it highly visible, helps you avoid mid-air collisions, and if you should have to sit down somewhere away from an airport, it'll enable you to be spotted from the air by people who are searching for you.
How did you learn about the Jenny plane?
Well, I saw it in an airplane magazine. There are several magazines devoted to home builds and kit build. This is not just a strange hobby that 1 or 2 people are interested in. There is a Experimental Aviation Association that is made up of many airplanes, airplane builders. They build them either from kits or from scratch, like I'm doing. I just buy the raw materials and start cutting and welding.
What kind of flying do you plan to do with your plane?
Well, it'll be mostly local in the area, just fun flying. I don't have a commercial license. I just have at this time I have a private license. But I hope to do some cross-country hops, and in the nature of the old early barnstormers. They would take off in their 2-seater plane, and their front seat, if they weren't traveling with someone else, they would have a sleeping bag and thermos and some food, and they would land at a small airport or in somebody's pasture and sleep under the wing. And so I have friends all over the country, and I want to visit them. Maybe I'll even take my wife if she's willing to ride with me for a change.
Well, are there any other exciting stories that you've had with your flying experience?
Oh, I've had several, I guess. Thus far, I'm credited with 3 crashes. And, you know, they say in the military flying, as a fighter pilot, after you down 5 enemy planes, it makes you an ace. And so I guess I have 2 more to go, but I'm not shooting at that as a goal, particularly since they're my own flight. But I did have to eject from an Air Force jet, and so I ended up getting the Caterpillar, and I crashed on takeoff one time. My wife was with me, and that's why she didn't like to fly anymore. And then I had an ultralight, and I flew it into a tree.
Thank you, Dr. Byrd, and thanks for watching the SAU Report. Good afternoon and welcome to the SAU Report. I'm your host, Melissa Cook, and this is my guest, Dr. Raymond Cammack, Professor of Mathematics here at SAU. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Cammack.
Thank you, Melissa. It's good to be here.
I wanted to ask you, what interested you first in mathematics, and was teaching your first choice for a career?
That's an interesting question because, to be quite honest, when I was majoring in math, I chose math as a major because it was a challenge to me. I really had less trouble and less challenge with some of my English courses and other courses, history courses and things like that, but for some reason or other I wanted to try mathematics. And the 4 years I was in undergraduate school, when people would ask me, what are you going to do with mathematics? Are you going to teach? It would really, I didn't let them see it every time, but sometimes it would really make me angry. You know, I'd think, no, I'm not going to teach. Then I got into graduate school and I taught to help pay my way through graduate school as a graduate assistant. And I said, hey, if you can get paid for this is what I want to do for a lifetime. So that's how I got into it.
Okay, and in addition to your position here at SAU as Professor of Mathematics, you're also head of the Student Media Committee. And as head of this, you're in charge of appointing the editors of both the SAU Bray and the Mule Writer, as well as the station manager for KSAU. For a student interested in one of these positions for next year, what qualities do you consider necessary?
Well, we First of all, I looked for the advice of the media personnel on our campus, such as Mr. Reppert, Dr. Cortez, different ones of this nature. And I go very much by their advice as to what they really need as far as experience and qualifications and for their students. We look at the grade point average as a technicality, something they have to have, a certain grade point average. And at this point, I can't remember, I believe it's a 2.5. I'm not sure of that. I think that's what it is. But we want students who will benefit from the learning experience. That's one of the things we want the students to need, is that learning experience. After all, that's the purpose of these media on our campus. The newspaper, all of these are not really done for the commercial part of it or anything. It strictly should be a learning thing. That's the purpose, to have an advisor in the program as well. The student should work close with the advisor. The advisor should work closely with the student so that learning will take place. But it's an on-campus experience that students can gain with the media that they, won't have chosen to work with, hopefully.
Okay, a lot of controversy has surrounded the athletic fee. What are your feelings on the fee, and do you feel that it's necessary?
I'll be real quick to tell you, my feelings are very strong on this. I like athletics on our campus. I enjoy going to some of the games and things of this nature, but I am not in favor of such a high athletic fee. I've been really interested this year, in fact, with the report of the students in the newspaper that talked about the increase in tuition. I think it's $50 or something like that they're talking about the increase being. I understand their concern on that, but I would really like to see a student talk to me or some other faculty member as to that increase as compared to for a student taking 16 hours, a $64 increase for the athletic fee. So I think that schools like SAU and other schools are going to have to face reality one of these days and realize that it's an expenditure that is too heavy for our schools to carry. I'm not saying do away with all of the athletics, but cut them down, pare them down, maybe have football for girls, basketball for boys, or something like this. And I mean, back the other way around. Football for girls might be interesting, mightn't it? Football for boys, basketball for girls, soccer, baseball, maybe have alternate teams, for different sexes and so forth. But I really would like to see this institution and institutions this size emphasize more the intramural aspect. I think that our athletic program benefits. Certainly the scholarships are good for the students that can play and go to school with those scholarships. But a lot of the students, or majority of our students, are not getting a lot of benefit out of it. An intramural program where we had fraternities and sororities competing with one another, I think would entice the school spirit more, and I think the students would have a greater appreciation for athletics, and I think the expense would be a lot less.
Okay. As chairman of faculty affairs during Dr. Brinson's resignation, what are your feelings about the situation?
First of all, I am sorry that our institution had to experience the negative things that we've experienced in the media and so forth over this past 6 months to a year. There's a lot of blame to be placed. I can't put all the blame on Dr. Brinson. There's been rights and there's been wrongs committed on both sides, and a lot of things of this nature. I do wish, and I think a lot of the problems could have been circumvented had President Brinson, when the board voted last spring to not renew his contract. And a lot of people misunderstand. They think that a lot of people think that the board just up one day and told the president, look, we're going to discontinue your contract. The president has over the years been given a 3-year contract. And 2 years ago, the president was notified his contract was not going to be extended for another year. So he had 2 years left. After that, the next year, then, which was last year, he was told you have 1 year left. So it was not like it was a new thing. The president had been told by the board this was a thing that they were concerned with. They had given him certain things that they wanted him to try to correct. They had not been corrected to at least the majority of that board's satisfaction. And I wish the president he would have done the university, I think, a greater service course, this is looking in retrospect, and he certainly probably had his reasons for trying to fight to stay on, but had he taken the board's decision and said, look, I'll spend this last year, he would have still been our president to this day and would have been leaving in June. He could have left with a lot of people patting him on the back, saying, well done, and so forth. But as it was, he left under a cloud, and that cloud still hangs over us.
Okay. Now, something that many people don't know about you is that you are also a minister. With your busy schedule, how do you divide your time between your teaching and your ministry?
Well, if you take this day we're talking right now as an experience, it's hard. I'm having a lot of problems juggling all my time. I have no problem with the two, because the ministry is primarily a weekend job, a weekend responsibility. I hate to use the word job, but it's a weekend responsibility. My teaching is a during weekday responsibility. The kinds of things that I do in the ministry through the week can be done with very little, if any, interference from my teaching duties. I do hospital visitation and other types of church functions in the afternoon hours after school during the week. On the weekend is when I do the things that I do in the ministry, such as preaching the pulpit and so forth.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Cammack, for joining us, and thank you for watching this edition of SAU Report.
Good evening, and welcome to the SAU Report. I'm Keshia Gray, here with guest Paul Murphy. Good afternoon, Paul, and welcome.
Thank you.
Paul is a sophomore here at SAU and is majoring in theater. Paul, you have recently received a lead role in the play The Foreigner. What did you have to do to receive this role?
Well, auditions were held for 2 nights, and Monday night I went in and auditioned for, I was just reading for any part, and I kind of liked the part of Owen, the clan leader. And at that time I had a beard, and I thought, well, maybe that'll give me an extra chance of getting that, because it's supposed to be a kind of a roughneck kind of fella. And well, the next night I went in, and I was just staying for a minute, but earlier that day I decided to go ahead and shave. And I went in, and I ran into Dr. Skelton, who directed the play, and he said, he made the comment that it's been so long since I've seen you without a beard, I've forgotten what you look like. Well, from that point I went on and watched part of the play. It was a show from a traveling group, and I got really bored at intermission and decided to leave. So I went back to the back room where they were auditioning at, and while I was there, Dr. Skelton had me read for that part, and I was still wanting the part of Owen pretty bad, but as I read the part of Charlie, which is the lead character, I began to like it more and more and more, and just seemed that I could have a lot of fun if I were to get this part. And so I was really hoping that I would get that part, you know. And then the next day, it was posted up on the call board that I had gotten, and that's how I ended up with it.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about the character and about the play itself?
Well, the character of Charlie is one of a older gentleman from England or somewhere. The play didn't specifically point out, but he's from another country. And the way we did it is that he's from England. And comes to a hunting lodge in Georgia with his friend because his wife is real ill and she's about to die. And his friend brings him to this hunting lodge to try and get his mind off of things. And while he's there, he tells his friend, which is Froggy, that he's real shy to talk to people, and he panics every time he talks to them. So Froggy comes up with the idea to tell the people there that Charlie cannot speak English and that he's a foreigner from some other country, and he doesn't ever just specifically point out which country. It just says he's a foreigner. And so that leaves open for the characterization that whichever way I can decide to play it and it can be from China or Mexico or anywhere, you know. But in the course of the play, like I said, there's part of Owen who is basically the main bad guy, the villain, and he is the Klan leader in this Georgia town. And him, along with the preacher, who's played by David Pickens, are at the head of the local Klan, and they're trying to steal this hunting lodge from the widow Meeks, who's played by Haley Nix. And the way they're planning on doing this is by trying to swindle the money from the girl that David is engaged to. And the way he's planning on doing that is to marry her and inherit the money that way.
Okay, how many people competed for the part Charlie?
I'm really not sure. Like I say, I wasn't there for all the auditions because I left early, but I think it was not so much as competing for the parts, it was just for going in and reading and letting the director pick out which person he wanted for each part.
How long have you been preparing for the play?
Oh, about a little over a month, I think. We started the week right after this last play closed, which was the Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, and we've been working Sunday through Thursday every night since.
How did you get involved with the theater?
Well, my sister, a long time ago, she used to try out for musicals and stuff, and I couldn't figure out why she wanted to because I couldn't see any point in it. And then one day, she called me at the house and asked me if I wanted to help with the production of Fiddler on the Roof, being in the chorus and singing. And from there, you know, I said, all right, because my best friend was doing it. And I said, well, could be fun. So we went out and we done the show, and from right after that, I decided to try out for the senior play in high school and got a pretty good sized role in that. And I just, as time went on, I got to liking it more and more.
Well, can anybody on campus try out for a part in a play?
Oh, yeah. Here recently, before the Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, we did a show called One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and there were a good many of the theater people in it, but most of them, there were a good many of other people outside which were in the school, the students here in the school, who had major roles in it. And also the musicals are a good chance for anybody to get involved with it.
Okay. How many people how many plays have you been involved with the SAE Theatre?
With the SAU Theatre, probably about 6, because I started with Fiddler on the Roof, and then I did a summer workshop and several other plays, which most of them were here this past year, starting with Cat on a Hot Tin Roof last semester, and then these 3 shows this semester.
Okay. What do you plan on doing after you graduate?
Well, I'm taking a bachelor's degree in theater because I need one for seminary, which I plan to go to and be a preacher afterwards. And the reason I picked theater is because I have a real bad problem with stage fright, and I'm scared to get up in front of people because I'm real nervous and timid, but I'm hoping that it'll help me get over my shyness and to where I can talk in front of people and maybe use it as a witness to people.
Okay.
Once I am a Christian, preacher. But eventually I'd like to go into foreign missions or something.
All right. Well, Paul, we thank you for joining us today on the SAU Report.
Thank you.
And we hope that all of you out there will join us next week for the SAU Report. Thank you. I'm your host, Keshia Gray.
The SAU Report is a production of broadcast journalism students in the Department of Theater and Mass Communication at Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia.